Hi guys, welcome back to Single Mom R.E.I. It's me, Demi. Actually getting ready to step out for a little bit and enjoy the night, but I just thought about a topic real quick, just dealing with some of the ins and outs of rental property. So one of the things that you're probably going to experience in being a landlord is you might end up with a not so good tenant. Okay, what I mean by that is I have been um, in a great position to have some really awesome tenants, but I've also had some frogs, kiss some frogs, as they say, where the tenant is not that great. Okay, what do I mean? There's the really terrible ones that don't pay the rent but refuse to move out. I've experienced that. They call those squatters. And then you also have the ones that um maybe they pay the rent, but they pay the rent late every month. So, the first will roll around and it's like, okay, where's the rent? And you know what I mean? Now it's like a week after, and you got to kind of deal with that. You got to decide, are you going to evict the tenant? Are you going to go down to eviction court, go to the sheriffs and things like that? And that's going to be, a price that you're going to have to pay. Literally, you're going to have to pay to get that done, especially if you have an LLC. Um, or you have the tenants that, um, oops, sorry, I lost my job, or, I didn't budget correctly, so I really don't have the money this month. I'm going to have to go down to public assistance if you have that in your area, and they're going to help me. I'm so sorry, and then you're kind of dealing with that. And then you also have the tenants that just simply don't keep up the property. You go over, maybe they call you for a service, and you go over, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this person is filthy. This house is disgusting, right? Which could turn into a problem for you because now you got rodent issues and things like that. It's really hard in the beginning to pinpoint who's going to be a good tenant and who's not. The one thing that I've warmed up to over the past few years is the application process. That's going to be huge with selecting a tenant. You should have some type of application process. Maybe you don't charge your tenants depending on the market you're in. I do not charge my tenants an application fee. However, I do screen my tenants. I have them fill out an application, and if the application is some of the things I found with tenants that are not so great, maybe they have a sketchy application, they don't fill everything out, or they haven't had residency, like consecutive residency over the course of, let's say, 3 to 5 years. It's really blotchy, and they have like these excuses like, oh, well, I stay with my mom, or I stay with a family member, things like that. Scratch those people right off your list as soon as you see stuff like that. But I would definitely say rely heavily on the application process. I can't stress to you how important that application is. And even the applications that come across as being really, really great, you want to make sure that you're checking, running that information, make sure they actually work where they say they work. I mean, some people would even go so far as to show up at the job with the application, and physically ask, hey, does so and so live here? I got this application. I've always only called, and generally, once I send them the application that has the tenant's signature and things like that, then we're good to go. They'll let me know anything I need to know about their employment, what kind of employee they are, how long they've been there, things like that. So it has worked out great so far, but I would say generally at first the application is going to play a really strong, well, the whole entire time, your application is going to play a really strong key a factor in finding that perfect tenant. However, I have grown to be a pretty decent judge of character too upon meeting a person. So make sure that application process is pertinent. It is very important to make sure you're checking that application over, make sure that information is correct. If you find something on the application that they fabricated, they lied about where they worked, or they're lying about residency, I would definitely chop them right off my list. Don't be too desperate to get a tenant. I know as a new investor, sometimes, we get into that place where it's just like, I just want to get somebody in there. And a lot of these people will show up with cash in hand. I've had people show up with $1,500 in hand. I have the money right now. Can I just give it to you? And it's like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have to check this application. However, when I first began this journey and someone showed up with that amount of money, it was really difficult to say no. It was really difficult. In fact, I had someone sway me because they had the cash and they were ready to go, and I was a new investor, first time, trying to rent a property, and I'm like, hey, this guy has the money, and it ended up being my worst tenant. Worst. He moved out. His sister wouldn't move out, which she wasn't even on the lease. Right? Quick story time. First people that moved in, it was actually a gay couple. Two guys, no problem with that at all. I had no discrimination whatsoever. Great people. They seemed great at the door. One of they were actually married. One of the spouse did not work. The other one did. He made a decent wage. Where I felt comfortable, if everything checked out, he would be able to handle the rent. And so I checked everything out. Everything checked out great. They seemed like great tenants. The first month was seamless, no problem. They paid their rent. It was perfect. The second month, we started running into issues. Okay, they started complaining about everything. They were very argumentative. They were just terrible. And then it got to the point where they were like, well, we'll just move out, because we're not going to pay rent. It was just like a lot of drama. And I'm like, well, what seems to be the problem? Every time I tried to fix something, they would find a reason not to pay the rent. Okay, so it was like, oh, we're not going to pay rent if this isn't right, if that's not right. And I would fix it, and it was like on and on and on and on. And so then I went over there one time, and I seen where there was beds in the living room, there was beds in the basement. They had like in a 2-bedroom apartment, they had like a family of 7 living in there, no lie, and dogs. I never told them dogs were okay, but all of a sudden I got dogs. I got about 7 people living in a 2-bedroom apartment, all utilities included. It turned into a nightmare. Utilities were sky high. It was just a mess. And then when they decided to move out, because I had to enforce the rules, you can't have 7 people living here. Then it was like, we're not going to pay the rent. They sat on that. I had to evict them. Their sister turned into a squatter. She would not leave at all. And I had to get her removed. The sheriffs had to come in. We had to put her furniture out, everything. It was a mess. So what I found out was the 2 guys that actually came and applied for the apartment, they were like the face of this whole thing, whereas she was the one actually trying to get the apartment. So they had absolutely nothing. They had no furniture. They had nothing for this apartment. She had all the furniture. She had the 2 kids, and she was going to basically supply them with the furniture, all of the things that they were going to live on, have an apartment with, all of their living essentials, but they were going to pay the rent. And when they decided to move out, she had no money. She had no job. And so I'm stuck holding the bill and looking at this girl like, well, who are you? And she's like, well, I'm the sister, and I have no job, and I have 2 kids. You can't put me out. And it just turned into this really sad sob story, which my heart went out to her, but I still got, a mortgage to pay and overhead. I didn't get into this, for that purpose. So it was really a mess. That set me back probably if I was to do the math on that, probably a good 3 months. It set me back about a good 3 months. And so it was really bad. And that was my first rental property, my first tenant's first experience, difficult. And that was 3 years ago almost. So, if I would have relied on the application with that, right? The application checked out. However, they tricked me. They moved the sister in. So it doesn't always pan out to be so perfect. But I would tell you, if you were to rely on anything, rely on that application piece. And I also would encourage you to just stop by. Find a reason to stop by and check out what's going on. Maybe you say, I just need to come over and, go in the basement for a purpose, or I need to, walk through and do, spot checks. Maybe you put that in your lease where every, 3 months you come over and just walk through and see how everything's going and, how everything looks, make sure everything is, up to par and working properly, and then you can do the paperwork and kind of have them sign off on that, to kind of be, in know what you got going on in there. Okay, so anyway, just a quick video about, you know, application processes, engaging the type of tenants that you have in your property. Real good, real quick, you know, off the top of my head type of video, but I just thought about it and wanted to share with you guys. So anyways, thanks for stopping by. You guys have a great weekend, and this is Demi with R.E.I signing out. Have a great one, guys. Bye bye.